So today we're going to talk about Gradebook in Sakai. But I do want to start with a couple of questions to find out how people might anticipate using the Gradebook. Let me start by showing you what the Gradebook looks like and telling you what it does. In your Sakai course, if your Gradebook is turned on, you can see your students' names listed. And for every item that you've created a Gradebook item for, there's a column where you can see a grade if you've graded it and the comments if you've commented on it. And the Gradebook essentially is for configuring your grading settings and allowing you and the students to look at all of the grades that you have given in that class in one view. So for example, in assignments, you can see the grade for each individual assignment, and so can students. So that's a very convenient interface for them. But if you're grading forums, the grades really only show up well here in the Gradebook, where they can look across and see multiple items. Now, Gradebook has two functions, which is one, just to collect the grades from the individual assignments and forums, and even from external assignments that you do. You can put grades in Gradebook. The other function it can do, which is optional, is to calculate a complete course grade based on all of the grades that are put in the system. Okay, so as you think about your class, how many of you think that you will be using Sakai just to allow students and yourself to see grades for assignments and forums, but not calculating a whole course grade like this over here, which is an average or a weighted average of multiple grades? So you can get, I'm just going to be using individual grades for individual pieces, or how many of you think you might be wanting to average all those things together to get a complete course grade? So hands up for just grades, individual grades for individual assignments. Okay, and hands up for anybody who thinks they're going to be totally calculating their entire course grade using Sakai. And then some people who might not have decided. Okay. All right. So, yes. Anna, did you have a question or just undecided?
I'll just say that I already taught my course, and it was drawing, so it's a little hard. I'm going with more like, did they do an assignment or not? And then I want to be able to put them in a category, but I already did the class.
Okay. Did you do the course in Sakai or no?
Yes.
Okay. And it was for summer, so you're grading summer work?
Yep.
Okay. So here's an important point. If you were just looking to submit your grades so that the students get their final grade, Sakai is not used for that part of the grading, all right? Narrative evaluation, which are students' official grades that get put in the system for their transcript, those go in self-service through a totally different process. It is not connected to the Gradebook in Sakai. So you can collect all your grades in Sakai, you can average out this course grade, and when you're ready to grade your course, you're going to go to two places. One, if you know how to do it, you can go to self-service and log in. Under your course and student details, you'll have my evaluations. And if you need instructions on how to do that, there, under the registrar's office button, there are some tutorials, training resources for you to learn how to, faculty guide to student assessment. All right. So if you need assistance with entering your final grades for the term, that's where you do that. Mm-hmm. We also have a tutorial on our YouTube website on narrative evaluation, where we had the registrar come and speak about that. And so if that's something that's more helpful than a text document, come on into our website and just search for narrative.
Excuse me.
And you can look up this tutorial on grading and narrative evaluations. Okay. Any questions on the basics of gradebook and versus narrative evaluations? Okay.
So Bonnie,
Yeah.
it is the case then that we populate Gradebook with all of our assignments, et cetera? That doesn't happen in any kind of build? I'm thinking about the AUO environment.
So in AUO, we import your course materials, which includes the creating the assignment and forum gradebook items in the gradebook, and we import the grading schema that AUO uses for you. So those are all set up and ready to go.
Awesome, thank you.
Whoever created the master course has identified the categories in weighting, and those should probably be checked to make sure that the right items are in the right categories. But Katie, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say that, yeah, for AUO specifically, it's set up based on the syllabus, what's in the syllabus for how things are graded and how they're weighted. So if you are also making any deviations from what you are inheriting as part of the master or set up originally, then you'll need to change it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go over.
Okay, I was going to say one more thing too about
Yep.
this. So one of the things that is particularly useful, I think, about having Gradebook turned on and capturing all of your comments, because Gradebook captures both a point value that you've identified, and if it's just a you've done it, you haven't, it can be a 0 and 1, and you just need to communicate that to students. You don't have to use it, you know, on any particular point scale. You can refer to rubric levels. So, you know, make sure you just explain what the numbers mean to students, and then you can use it however you want. Every time you have a gradebook item, it also stores the comments. And one of the things in Sakai that is a little bit tricky when you're going from what you've done in here to the self-service environment to write your final evaluations is sometimes gathering all the comments for everybody. So if you're using Gradebook and you're having all of the comments fed into here, or you're entering them here for things that aren't an assignment or a form, then there's if you export it at the end, it'll give you an Excel sheet that has every student and every assignment and all the comments you've done on everything across the board. So it's aggregating it for a quick view, but it's also aggregating all those comments in one place for you to use to help making that final grading easier.
Thanks, Katie. So there are several steps to setting up Gradebook. One is you deciding how you're going to use it, whether you're going to use it just to collect your assignment grades and comments, or whether you're going to calculate the full grade. And then the setting of the Gradebook settings, we're going to go over that. A little after that, we're going to show you how to put your assignments in the Gradebook and how to put forums topics in the Gradebook if you're going to grade them. So we'll go through all those three processes, and I have plenty of time for questions throughout. So feel free to unmute yourself and jump in if you have a question about what we're talking about in the moment. Or if you type it in the chat, because it can be answered later, that's fine. And Katie or I will look for those questions in a little bit. All right, so this is a course I had set up that I had some material in already, but I wanted to start from scratch and show you what your Gradebook looks like when you first jump into your course. And you can see it floating. All right. So I do have some assignments already in here, but when you come in, you will see all of your students that are currently enrolled. And you'll see if we've imported it for you like AUO, or if we've imported it from an old course, you may see some items in here. What we want to look at today to start with are the Gradebook settings. And there are 5 areas. We'll go through each one. Under grade entry, we always suggest you use points. What those points mean, you get to set up down here in grading schema. And how the categories weighting are calculated with those points gets done down here. Under the grade release rules, this is where you decide whether you are going to average all of your grades together or just leave grades for individual assignments and forms in the gradebook without averaging them. If you choose to display the released gradebook items, this is the one that's almost always checked because you usually want students to be able to see their grades. If you want to display a final course grade, this is where you decide whether it's going to be shown to them all averaged together. You can choose to display that or you're not. But if you're not doing that, explicitly make sure it's not selected so that students don't see some sort of random average that you're not actually going to use on anything. And I'll show you where that displays. By default, we don't want to show these statistics to students. So those will be off by default and should stay that way. Under categories and weighting, this is where you get to decide how your grades will be categorized and how they'll be weighted in an average if you're using that course average. In this case, I'm just going to rename this. If you have regular written assignments, a final research paper or project, and forum discussion and participation as your 3 categories, you can decide what percentage each of those categories will count as. And this will show you here right now how many items are currently linked to that category. And this is one way that you can check to make sure your gradebook is set up properly. If you don't like these categories or whatever basic ones might be in there, you can add and remove categories and change them. So this will be, this is something that may not happen in Sakai. And you'll see because I've added 10%, I get this error that weighting for the categories must equal 100. I need to take 20% off from somewhere, 10% off from somewhere in order to make this one work. And you'll see they all average out. So these items, assignments, your research paper, those will be things they submit to you in Sakai. Your forum and discussion participation could include forums and discussions in Sakai or in-class participation if you were counting that. And this presentation in class could be something totally outside of Sakai that you don't have an assignment for. You can still have a category or you can still have a grade for something you're not doing in Sakai if you want. So think about how you might set up that as a whole. And then under your grading schema, this is where you get to choose how you decide to grade. You can start with their imported ones. They have points 4 or 5 different options in here, but you can also totally customize it to your the way that your program does grading. So for example, in this other course I was in, when we look at the grading schema, you'll see that outstanding is 96 and above, excellent is 90 to 95, very good is 85. So if you're using narrative ranges or you're using a rubric that uses these words outstanding, excellent, and very good, you don't have to swap artificially to letter grades A, B, C, D, F that we don't usually use here. You can use whatever naming convention your program uses. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So I'll leave this one in here for now and not go through all the stages of changing it. And once you've changed any or all of your settings, you can hit Save Changes. You can come in and change these at any time, but I'd recommend you not change the numbers drastically after class has started because students may notice that their grade average has changed if you change those numbers after the start of the course. All right. And once you've set your settings, you can go back and look at your grading pane again. Any questions about the settings or how you might implement them? Something that doesn't seem like it would work? Go ahead, David.
Bonnie, if I heard you right, you recommended not using the setting that allows the student to show the cumulative grade. Did I hear that right?
Only if you are not using that cumulative grade. I think it's helpful for students to see it if you are in fact doing all of your grading in Sakai, and you average those things out according to the categories and weighting and allowing them to see it.
I see.
But if you will be adding other things to their eventual grade that are not tabulated in Sakai, then you would be artificially showing them an average that isn't really true, and that could be confusing.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, for the fully online courses, people almost always reveal the grade so that students have a sense of how they're doing. This overall grade also only includes grades, so it's the average or the total for the grades that have been entered. So it doesn't start them at 0 and they're counting up. It'll average what they've finished so far. So you have to enter a 0 if somebody should be counted as a 0, because it counts no grade as not being included. So it should show them, the average of what they've achieved so far.
All right, so you can save a comment. They do not automatically get a 0 is also what Katie's telling you if they don't complete something. So if you are trying to give someone a grade of 0, then you do need to give them a 0 in, say, a forum or an assignment if they're not doing it. It doesn't automatically put that in there. So,
just double click it. Double click. Oh, yeah.
I should have moved off something that wasn't a quiz.
Oh, I was gonna say, oh, right. That's why you can't do it.
So,
right.
Yeah, 0. So if I wanted to give this person a 0 out of 10, this has to be part of the category in order to recalculate this grade. So we'll make sure that all those things are set up properly. Now, if you are only using assignments, only grading assignments in Sakai, and you're not grading forums, then you don't need to use Gradebook at all if you don't want to, because students can see all of your grades and all of your comments in assignments itself, and they wouldn't need a second place to go and look at that. But if you're grading forums, the only place for them to see the grade is here in Gradebook. And if you're calculating a whole course grade, of course you want them to be able to see Gradebook. Assignments is also useful because in the process of creating your assignments, you add the items to Gradebook and you don't have to manually create them. So for example, I have a assignment here that I haven't published yet. If I'm getting ready to publish it, when I'm in the assignment settings, and if I've chosen my open date and I've chosen my due date, these dates are way out of whack, so don't worry about them. When you get down here to the grading section, this is where you tell Gradebook your grading scale for this assignment is points. How many points is this assignment worth? Send the grades to the Gradebook, and it will automatically create a new Gradebook item for you with the matching name that you have on the title of this assignment. So lickety split, you create your assignment, and it puts it right in the Gradebook as well. And then we usually recommend that you send the notification email to students when a grade is released if you want them to know after you've graded something. If you want them to have to come into Sakai and look at it, then you would not send it. When you hit post And you'll see this assignment was called sample not to be published. We can now go back into the gradebook and we'll scroll across. There's a horizontal scroll bar on the bottom that you might need to scroll up to find. And you will see as we scroll across, at the end, we now have a new item in our gradebook, which is sample not to be published. So getting assignments into your gradebook is super easy. If you needed to edit anything, you can edit the item details in here. For example, if you needed to change the point value, you could change it in assignments and it would change here. The due date comes over automatically from the assignment. And if this was something you didn't want to include in the course calculation, you could come in here and not include it. But those choices were all available to you in assignments as well. Now with forums, it's slightly different. In forums, there is no automatic creation of a matching gradebook item put into the gradebook when you create a forum. So if I, for example, create a new, I have this master's project chat room that I'm going to grade. I've already created it. You know, I've given it a title, I've given it the instructions, I've picked all the settings. But it doesn't automatically put things in gradebook, and you can't assign it to a gradebook item unless you've already created the gradebook item. Okay, so you can do it in either order. You can create the gradebook items and then create your forum topics. But usually when you're creating your course, you create the forum topics and then you create the number of them that you need after the fact. All right, so if you go to Gradebook, they have an add gradebook item here. And I'm going to call this master's project discussion. Note that you are deciding what the forum topic is named, and you are deciding what the title of the gradebook item is named. It's very helpful if you make sure they're named very similarly, or at least have a week designation so that you can remember, oh, this was the grading item that matches that forum. It's another reason for creating the forum name first, because you might create that first. Again, here is where you decide how many points you're going to give in a forum. You could do 1, you could do 10, you could do 100. If you are just grading, as someone mentioned, done or not done, you could do a 1-0 scale. As long as you explain to the student that when they get a 1 on their forum, it means they've done it, and a 0 means that they didn't do it. You could even have a 0, 1, 2 if you wanted a done but not really up to standard, or 1 is great and 0 is 1. You can choose whatever grading point level you want to do for these. They will all be averaged together if you've created a category for them. And those grades will become 10% of their final grade or 30% of their final grade at the end. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to grade every assignment in every forum out of 100. They will still get their ranked percentage if you're using categories and weighting. Now you'll see it doesn't ask me what category this belongs to. I will create this, and you'll see, we'll scroll. Okay, here's our new item. And the reason it didn't ask me about categories is because I may not have set up my categories properly in this course. So let's go look, and it
You're
says
not
no
using
categories.
Right.
I'm not using categories in this course. So if you are, well, how do I group my forums? How do I group them? This is where you would do this. And you have to make sure that that got saved in here.
You can also do categories only. So if you're not, again, if you're not doing a final grade, then weighting isn't really useful. It's extra work for you to manage. So but if you do want things categorized just to visually help students to group things or for you to help group things, then you can also set up categories just to organize things.
And I'll show you now that I have categories turned on, I can assign, or they will be assigned a category, and you can change the category as you see fit. And you see they're all grouped by color. All right, everything in the discussion category has this green bar across the top. So I need to go make sure that all of my, here's a discussion that hadn't been categorized, edit item details, add a category. Okay. And this is how you can move things around among your categories to make sure that everything is set up before the course starts and put them in the right categories. You can also change the item order within your categories by using this item order button. You'll see I've got week 4 ahead of week 1, and all you have to do is come in here and drag these in order so that they appear on your grade book in order. They'll be easier to grade that way. They'll be easier for the students to see that way. You can make sure you're not missing any that way, and then update, categorize, sort.
Something very strange is going on with the overall grade.
That definitely is.
Huh. I don't think I've seen that before. It's happening in the discussion forums area. Huh.
It may be because I have actually graded them on a scale of 100 when I have set up the item details to only be at a 10.
All right, look at that. So you have actually given them 900% of their possible grade. That's how. Okay, look at that.
So as you can see, Sakai doesn't force you to grade them the way that you said you were going to. All right.
There we go. Okay, good. Phew.
That's what I get for duplicating a course and then changing.
No, it's fine. I'm just glad it's normal human typing in something different than the system expected rather than some crazy bug.
Yes. So as you can see, to grade an item or to change a grade, you can just come into the grade book, double click the blank box, and it shows you what you're supposed to be grading out of here. So at least it helps you do the right thing if you're paying attention. All right. And now everybody's grades are a little bit more in line with my categories. Yeah, that was a whole lot of extra credit. And now you'll see the final column in each category is an average of everything in that category. All right, so you can look at the total course average and you can look at the category averages to see maybe if someone is not doing well in their written assignments, but they are doing well in their forums, or the other way around. All right, so I want to stop and take a minute for you guys to throw out any questions you have, or for Katie to add anything. Erica, did you have a question?
No, is my hand up?
No, I just saw your microphone unmute, so we got a little green ring, so I thought you might have said something.
No, I came in late. Unfortunately, I had a meeting, but I wanted to get what I could get, so I'm just listening.
Okay.
So Bonnie,
Yeah.
you may be getting to this. How do you make comments in your assessment for the forums?
Okay. So if you are in here, you can do it directly in Gradebook. But Gradebook doesn't provide you any way to view what a student has posted before you do it. So you can come into Gradebook, you can click this download and add or edit comment. You can type in this box, you know, whatever you want. So that is doable if you want to update a comment or you already know which students it's for, which week it's for, and you're going to do it. For grading forums, all right, I actually, first of all, I am going to make sure that this forum is not a draft, because this one actually has a post in it. And if you wanted to come in and grade this forum, because this one you see it has one message, you could come under here under the More tab and click Grade. So you're going to grade week 1, question 1, what is the meaning of life? And then you need to select the gradebook item where you want to put these grades, and it needs to match. All right, it's going to go in the right place. Now this shows you what grades I've already done. And by clicking this show comments, you can see the comments field. And now I could go through and read student 4's responses and writings, give them a grade, give them some comments. I could grade a couple of students and come down here and hit submit grades. Now, what you might be tempted to do if you are grading multiple forms for the same week, or if you're grading the last 3 weeks forms right now, is go and just change your gradebook item and try to grade the next question. You can't do that because you are in question 1. So you need to make sure that your question matches up with your gradebook item. So you need to go back out to the forums and then try to grade week 2. More grade. Select the matching week 2 discussion. And then you can show the comments and you can start grading this. Now, on occasion, people have come in here and graded all 10 of their students and written all bunches of comments and hit submit, and it could hang. So we recommend that you grade 2 or 3 students and hit submit. It'll land you back on this page. You can grade the next 2 or 3 students so that you don't end up losing a whole lot of work if your internet connection drops, if your computer freezes, if something happens on the server side, just to save you any frustration. Another way to grade for forums is to look at the conversations in the forum and clicking this button called grade. So you could have read all of Bonnie's responses in this topic and hit grade, and you'll get a different gradebook guide. So now you, again, select week 1, question 1, week 1, question 1, points, comments, submit. You grade 1 student at a time after reading what they posted, and you also don't have that challenge of losing a bunch of grades that you've typed in all at once. Bob, did that answer all of your questions on grading the forums? And Katie, is there anything, do you want to recommend one way or the other?
No, the only thing that you didn't show just now is that on that list of everybody and what they, where you can do all the mass grading essentially, there is also a view for you to click out and view the actual posts by the individual students from there too. So you aren't,
You're right.
you don't need to do it, just remembering what they said from here. So if you click on there, yeah, so you can click on the details, button there.
And you'll see all the messages they've
Right, and
offered.
it'll show what they've done. And then if you click on their name from that view, it gives you even a different view. Sorry, so pick who was it that submitted something?
It was probably me.
It was you.
It was me.
All right, now we've
All
got it.
Let's try that again.
All right.
All right, one person.
Yeah, so click on your own name. And so now it'll show you, so this is out of context of the conversation, but it would show you, if you click on the student's name, it would show you the full body of anything they submitted within that one forum topic.
You don't have what they replied to for their replies, but you
Right.
do have what they said in their replies. So that you can look at
Correct, yes,
the
not what
quality of their responses and the quantity of their responses all in one person.
And then you can close, yeah, then you can close that and go back to that same view in order to do the comments and grading.
Right. So you can do that while you're in here. Did I pick the right?
Yeah.
Oh, that person.
Yeah,
can't.
but it's for you, yeah.
So you will see this. You will see a bunch of people in your list that are going to say NA next to their grade, and that's because they're not a student. They're academic support people in your class or a co-instructor that you've added. A person would have to have the role of student for you to be able to grade them. All right, so if you have a student observer who you've added on a wait list or something like that, you won't be able to grade them until they're officially enrolled as a student. All right, do you want to look at the assignment? Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Super quick question. In the continuing effort to automate all things, is there any discussion with respect to how programs using rubrics would be able to have rubrics available in grading? In other words, so that you could select the rubric that made the one that was connected to what you were assessing and populate it?
Yes, there is a rubric tool in Sakai now. We have not officially started promoting and using it. It is available to you if you wanted to give it a shot yourself, but we're still learning the ins and outs because it's new. But yeah, you build out complete rubrics and then you use those for your grading, and it would just pop up and you select the rubric ranking.
Yep. So if you wanted to try that in an unpublished site, you could go to Site Info, Manage Tools, scroll down to the R's, and turn on the Rubrics tool.
Yeah. So that'll be next wave of things, probably for winter quarter, spring term, since we updated the rubrics this term and people are getting used to that for fall. Trying not to overwhelm people.
Yeah. I do encourage people to post their rubrics on their syllabus page. And when you're in a forum topic, there's an attachment available. You could post it into the body of the forum or the bottom of your forum after you've given the instructions, so students know how they're going to be graded. But there's also a really convenient little attachment button if you wanted to attach the rubric you'd be using for all of your forums. And in assignments, there's an attachment available as well. All right, so here are my assignments. I'll show you if you are editing an assignment. You could post your rubric in this discussion area where you can give all the instructions, or you could say, please see attached rubric, and you can attach it right here using this attachment. Now, assignments also has a new grading pane. So I'm going to go down here and show you in a couple of ways that you can grade. You may need to submit an assignment for a student if they submit it to you via email because their login to Sakai was broken or something like that. Under assignments by student, you can click on a student's name. It'll list all the assignments, and each one will have this link, submit on behalf of a student. And that's how you could upload the text they sent you or an attachment they sent you, and then it would appear as submitted, and you could then go in and grade it. Okay, so that's under assignments by student. If you wanted to grade an assignment, like I'm going to grade this week 1 paper for everybody who's turned it in, you can come in here and click the grading pane. And you will see all of your students listed and the status, no submission, returned, ungraded. And to start grading, you can click on their name. And Katie, this started working really well for me today. When you first appear, what appears over here would be if you had offered any inline text that they were supposed to submit as their assignment. And over here, you'll see anything they were supposed to attach as their assignment. Now, this is not the nicest assignment submission, but when you click the attachment, it appears over here in this window now so that you don't have to download it unless you want to download it and track changes in there and submit it back. So you can read it right in the grading pane. You can give them a grade. You can give them feedback, comments. I'll just well done, etc. I promise I'd do better if it was a real grade. Private notes, these are available to the faculty member, instructors only. The student won't be able to see it. You can allow resubmission if you are sending it back to them to be edited and resubmitted, and you can pick what date that's due by, and that is only for this individual. It's not for the whole class as a whole. And you can save your grade, or you can save and release it to the student. Now, in this grading panel, after you hit save, you can come back to the top and you can go to the next student without having to return to the list and pick the next student. All right, so I can go to the next one. And this says no submission for sample student 3, skip, no submission for sample student 4. I can go through the whole list, or you can go back to the list. It's probably likely that most of your students would have submitted their item by the due date. You can just flip through and grade each one and read it as you go. You'll see the grade appears over here. And when you go back into Gradebook and you scroll across to writing assignment number 1, what's the one I just graded? Was that the one I just graded?
Maybe.
Should be in here. Okay. I want to make sure I scrolled up and down. Those are all my students are showing. And I might need to check the assignment to make sure that it's in the gradebook.
So Bonnie, what happens if our view is nothing like your view? For example, you have 2 columns when you have the individual student opened. Mine is just a continuous one. The submission is at the top and my ability to make comments is below it, not in 2 columns.
Should I stop sharing? When I stop sharing, will you share?
Sure. So I want to do, looks like that's it. Did that show up?
Yep.
So the list is, when I'm in all assignments, you had some green bars on yours. Mine don't show up. When I choose an individual one to go into it, oops, I should have chosen grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're viewing.
Yeah, so I choose grade and I come in. Oh, that's where those bars are. Okay.
Ah,
when I choose an,
I see. Up next to the apply button. It says use new grader to grade submissions.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then otherwise it uses the legacy version where it's stacked.
Will there be other places where a new version is available that we may need to do that?
No, it's just here, and that should be on by default
Okay.
in all the upcoming courses.
Is this an older class or an unpublished class?
No, it's current.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and open one now and see if it looks the way you expect it to.
Okay. Yep, that did it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, another question going back to what a student sees when you do enter a grade. If I check off save and release to student,
Mm-hmm.
what happens on the student end? Is there an email sent automatically, or how does that work?
It depends on what you selected when you created that particular assignment. I'm going back to sharing. So when you create an assignment, there's a choice down here. Here we go. Release grade notification email options. Do not send a notification email or do send a notification email. So if it's select send a notification email when the grade is released, it will both show the grade in Sakai and send an email. If for that assignment you would select do not send notification email, it would just show in Sakai. They wouldn't get an email notifying them.
I see. Okay.
So you get to choose on a per assignment basis whether you're going to release that with an email or just release it in Sakai.
So if you choose the notification, it appears in an email sent to the student and the Sakai site both.
Yes.
Okay.
And the
It's like
student,
announcements.
oh, I
When
was
you
gonna say,
choose email notification, it both stays in Sakai and goes email or not. But
right. I was going to say, they get a message that tells them that they have feedback ready for them for this assignment. It does not send the feedback in the email.
Ah, okay.
It prompts them to come into the system to look at it.
I see. Okay, so they're not getting the feedback in the email. They're getting a notice that exists.
Correct. So that they know to come in and take a look at it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Good.
no, it's interesting. I'd like to see that email if there's a link to it, but because that would be very helpful. If there's a link right to this assignment feedback, or if you have to go find it in the assignments tool.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't see them very often.
Yeah, exactly. We don't get to be students as much. So students will get their student view as well. If you ever want to check this, the student view will show you which of your assignments have opened to students and which ones they can't see right now. So if your student tells you, I'm supposed to have an assignment for week 4, but it's not showing up. If you look at your student view and you see that it isn't on this list, it may mean that your open date hasn't been reached yet, and you might need to go tweak that. Okay. All right, so I want to leave the last few minutes for more questions. If there's anything you'd like me to go over again or show you again.
How do we add an external task that we'd like to put in the gradebook?
Okay. So in the gradebook, you can simply add a gradebook item. So attended outside event. Or, you know, in-person Zoom participation or attendance. You can give it a point value, yes, no, 1 through 10, whatever you like. You can give it a due date, but that's optional. And you can, if you have created categories, you could create a category for outside events or for it specifically, you could choose what category you want it in. And then you can decide whether you include it in course grade calculations or not if you have them turned on. If you don't have course grade calculation turned on, that won't be available. And if it's uncategorized, it won't appear in the course grade calculation either. So you have to put it in an actual category if you're using categories in order for it to be included. And you can create. The other thing is if you're creating multiple items, this plus button means create and start a new one all in one fell swoop. So you don't have to do that extra intermediary click to create, add a gradebook item. This would just bring you to create this one and start your next one all in one fell swoop. So if you're doing your forum topics, this is super easy. If you copy and paste week 1 discussion topic 1. And then you'll see I put it, even though it's not a discussion forum, I put it in that category. And so it's going to appear in that category and be calculated with that category. So make sure you pick the right category.
And then you can just grade it right there within the
Yep.
gradebook.
Double click it. It shows you you're giving out of 10 points. And in this case, you can do the drop down to add a comment. If you wanted narrative feedback in addition to your grade.
Okay. And where do quizzes show up in the gradebook?
Quizzes and tests. I don't happen to have one created. Those automatically show up in gradebook, right, Katie?
It's also a setting like assignments. When you create the quiz, you just mark in the settings that you want it to send the scores to gradebook, and it shows up just the same way as the assignments. It creates it automatically based on the title that you give to the assessment, and then the scores automatically go into here.
So, oops, can I go back and do that with settings?
You can, yes.
Okay.
All right, so I just turned on my tests and quizzes tool because I didn't have any in this course. If I launched this week 1 quiz, this week 1 quiz is published and active, you will see in my gradebook.
No, only if the setting says to. So check the settings.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you have to mark to send a gradebook, otherwise it won't.
Send assessment score to gradebook immediately.
That's the one.
It's empty box. Strange. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, grading and feedback.
Yep. There, yeah. So this one is marked too, yeah, send assessment. And then you choose.
Which category?
Yeah, if you want it to be, yeah, assigned to a category automatically as part of that. Yep. So it's the same setup as this is how it looks in assignments as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I did see that one in my gradebook originally.
So also, just as kind of a final overarching thing here too, in the future, so once you set these things up and you make the links between existing quizzes, existing assignments, when you import all this stuff into a course in the future, all this stuff comes with it. So you don't have to rebuild these items. You don't have to relink them to assignments and tests and quizzes. So once you do it, if you're reteaching the same thing, you get to pull it along with you.
Or if you're teaching a similar class with a similar structure, you can import a different course and change the content so that all that setup is maintained between this class you taught and a separate class you taught. Saves you a lot of time once you've got it once the way you like it, and then you can tweak it after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have questions about that, I'm going to stop the recording, and I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes. But send all of your questions to at.antioch.edu. That way, if it's really complex and it's after hours, Katie will get it. And otherwise, I'll take a stab at it first.
Can I just ask